New York Giants fans, I think we have to be careful. We're seeing a lot of great things out of training camps. Sorry, not training camp, but out of the OTAs. We've heard good things. People have said good things, but we have to be careful. We have to pump the brakes. There's a plan, and we should not want people to jump beyond the plan. I just always like to let you guys know there's been no pads put on yet. There's been no hitting. There's been no fear. There's been no peril. And because of that, it's hard to just say, oh, people are really good, people are not good. Whoa, not so fast. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on that side. That's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there, check out everything we've got going on again for the second month in a row. I have dropped over 30 pieces over on the New York Giants on SI. You've probably read a lot of them and didn't even realize it was me because a lot of the times you guys don't even look at the bylines on these stories or in these opinion pieces, and that's cool. My entire goal is for you to have the information. And so I like to say, if you want to check out your favorite analyst, then come check me out. Although, now that I say that, that might not be the case in the Giants sphere, because there's a lot of people out there that apparently hate me. So, by the way, I don't mind at all. It's cool. Like I'm good with it. So I'm not trolling or anything, but I'm all right with it. And also, I noticed that a lot of people were giving Pat Leonard a really hard time. And I'm not necessarily a Pat Leonard fan, right? I'm not saying I'm here, in support of Pat Leonard. Although I will say this, a lot of you were giving him flack for the headline or for what was posted about his story. I just want to remind you all that most of the writers don't pick the headlines for the story. Most of the time, that's the editor. Now, there are some writers who write their own headlines. And if he wrote that headline, then he should get flack for the headline. But if you read the story, you understand that the headline was put there for the explicit purpose of getting your eyes to bug out and hopefully clicking on the story, right? Like, and while I don't like it, I've never been a big fan of that, because I think in a way it can fool the consumer into thinking they're about to read about one thing when in reality they're about to read about another. In this reality of, you have to find a way to cut through. You have to find a way to cut through the noise, to cut through all of the content creation, all of the writers, all of the fanalists, all of the analysts, all of the experts, all of the athletes who are in this space. When you have so much that you have to cut through, an editor is going to take liberties and try to make that headline as grabbing, as thought-provoking, as emotional or emotion pulling as it possibly can. And that's what happened with that headline. The headline and the amount of engagement that post received was enough to make them want to do it again. I don't know how many people actually clicked on it to see the article and read the article and spend time on the site, but I can tell you that the engagement that it received on X, and I can just speak for X, the engagement that it received for X was enough that's going to make them want to do it again, right? So just keep in mind, while you're over there kicking Pat Leonard's back in, he may not have been the one who actually wrote the headline. Now, if he was, you can kick his back in for a disingenuous headline, right? But overall, I think that you have to give the writer a little bit of you know, a little bit of slack. You gotta allow them to write, because once we hand that piece over to the editor, it is up to the editor to do whatever it is they feel is in the best interest of the paper and or the site, whichever you want to call it, right? So when I hand over any of my work to our editor at the New York Giants, so SI Patricia Traina, if she adjusts some things, if she writes a different headline, hey, that's just what she does, because she saw something that said, hey, I feel like this headline might catch people's attention. I just wanted to say that. Not to defend Pat Leonard, not to do any of that. If you want to have beef with the man, have beef with the man. That's for him to deal with. I don't see anybody coming to my defense out there, at least not that I know of. And if you are, thank you. Right? But yeah, so that's how I felt about that. I received a message in Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it today from JT Savoy, and shout out to JT Savoy, who's been a long time supporter of this podcast, almost probably since the first time I started doing this podcast on the New York Giants on SI Network and YouTube channel. So I want to send a shout out to JT. But he asked a question, and the question was surrounded by Jameis Winston, and there has been a lot of discussion about Jameis Winston being traded, right? Either before or at the end of camp or early in, because traded to another place in order to get some type of compensation for him. And he asked me how I felt about it. And I told him I had mixed feelings about it, and it was probably too long to send in text form on a message. And so that I would talk about it here, because I think it is a big deal. And it's a part of why in my opening I said, hey, we might want to just say not so fast. Because the reason people are talking about trading Jameis Winston is because people have seen Jaxson Dart perform, and they think that, oh my God, he might be ready to go sooner rather than later. Here's the thing, and this is, by the way, this is the fact with everyone, because I've heard people talking about how good Cam Ward looks, and oh my gosh, he's the one that got away because we won that last game and didn't have the first overall pick. I've seen people talking about how good Shedeur Sanders looked, and oh my God, you could have had Shedeur Sanders. You didn't even have to give up a first round pick for him. You could have gotten him in the subsequent rounds, and blah 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 blah. Right? I've even heard good things said about Jalen Milroe and how he's been performing. And here's what you got to remember: they have put no pads on. They are going up against generic defenses with players who are probably not the best players out there. And again, there's no pads on. So, when you consider the fact that this isn't real football that's going on right now, it's just practice, you gotta wait and see what it looks like when the pads come on. We don't have to see what it looks like for Jameis Winston. We know what it looks like. He's always been a gamer. If you give him the opportunity, it doesn't even matter who the wide receivers are out there. They said that the Browns had no wide receivers, that the Browns were a terrible offense who couldn't move the ball and had no wide receivers. They traded away their best wide receiver to Buffalo. Jameis Winston stepped in there and all of a sudden made somebody 1,000-yard receiver, scored a bunch of touchdowns, but eventually had too many turnovers, right? So we know what he can do. We don't know what Jaxson Dart can do at this level. And so I'm conflicted by this idea of trading away Winston. I'm conflicted. Like, I'm conflicted about the idea that I really thought Jameis Winston might get a chance here with the Giants. I thought that the Giants had played the cards perfectly. And then they went and got Russell Wilson. And apparently Winston knew this was going to happen, or that he knew there was going to be another quarterback. But I can't help but feel bad because he has not been given a legitimate opportunity to start as a quarterback since Tampa Bay. And the one time he did, he had 14 touchdowns and like 2 or 3 interceptions, got hurt, and was never given the opportunity again. Like, it was over just that quickly. And I've watched all of these quarterbacks who've never thrown, 30 plus touchdowns in the season in their first go rounds, who've never thrown for 5,000 yards in their first go rounds. I watched them all get legitimate second chances, and some third chances, and some fourth chances. So from that standpoint, I felt bad. And so would I like to see Jameis Winston get traded maybe back to New Orleans where he has an opportunity to start because they don't have a starter on that team right now? Absolutely. Absolutely. Would I like to see him get traded somewhere where he could get a starting position? Yes. Do I want to see him get traded away to go and be a backup somewhere else when he is perfect to be the backup in New York with the Giants? Not just because his skill set actually mirrors more of Jaxson Dart's skill set than Russell Wilson does. Because I think that Jaxson Dart has a stronger arm than what Russell Wilson has ever remotely had, and Jameis Winston has a better arm than both of them. So I think it's closer. I think people lose the fact that Jameis Winston has the ability to run, to pick up yards with his legs. Right? Is it at the level of what Russell Wilson used to do? No. Is it just as effective? Absolutely. Jaxson Dart has the ability to be all of that. He has the ability to be great. But why do you have to rush it? If the game plan was, hey, Jaxson Dart's going to redshirt this year, he's not playing at all. Why would some 7-on-7 reps, some 9-on-7 reps, some no pad reps, why would that change anybody's thought process behind it? Right? This is akin to Daniel Jones. Hey, we're not going to pick up your 5th-year option. You're going to have to prove it. And then he kind of sort of proves it, but doesn't really prove it. And now we double down and give you $40 million, and we get off of our plan, which was to, hey, we're going to move on from the quarterback after this year and reset with a quarterback under a rookie deal. That should have been year number 2, but that wasn't because they messed up the cha-cha, right? So don't mess up the cha-cha here where you have Jaxson Dart and you're saying, hey, Jaxson Dart's not going to play. So we let Russell Wilson cook this year. You let Russ cook, right? Then next year, you possibly move on from Russ. Who do you still have there as your veteran backup for Jaxson Dart? You still have Jameis Winston, who has 2 years on his deal. So, why would you trade away a cheap But starter level backup in the NFL, where everybody needs a starter level backup because your starter is most likely going to get hurt for a game or two during the season. And with the Giants, it's been proven because every single year the quarterback gets hurt and is out for a little bit, if not for a long time. And so why would you not have a legitimate veteran backup to be able to take over and not miss a beat? Maybe even in some areas elevate. That makes sense, and that is a part of the plan. So when I say not so fast, that's what I'm referring to. I've also heard a lot of talk about players and where they're playing and all of this stuff. Like people were, Abdul Carter in a series, he was lined up in 3 different places, or he was lined up as an edge rusher, he was lined up as the Mike linebacker. Hey, you know what I want to hear? I want to hear him that he made plays. I want to hear that he was in the mix. That's not what I'm hearing. So maybe putting them all of these situations and all these different places is stunting the ability to just make plays. I don't know. Right? But how about a lot? This is the NFL. This isn't college. And they didn't really have him doing it in college. This is the NFL. Allow him to get mastery over one thing before you widen the circle. It's like anybody ever seen the Mask of Zorro? I'm sure all of you. Catherine Zeta-Jones, Antonio Banderas at the height of their powers, right? Anthony Hopkins was the old Zorro, which is kind of funny because he's not, not remotely Mexican and or Spanish or whatever you want to call it, right? De La Vega. So like just this idea of having him master this small circle, and as he got mastery over that circle, he got a bigger circle and a bigger circle and a bigger circle, right? Until he had mastery over his space and what he did. I feel the same way about that when it comes to players. Show me that you have mastery over position number 1, and then we can discuss position number 2. We can discuss position number 2. But me trying to get you to grow at position 1 and position 2 simultaneously is going to mean that both of them will grow slower, right? Both of them will have a slower growth. And that's not what we want. So I want to see more plays being made. I heard about, I heard about a couple of the free agents making plays. I heard Paulson Adebo got an interception on day 3. That's great. Then I heard, other people were getting their hands on the ball, but the people who were reporting it, not many people were saying who intercepted or who got their hands on the ball. Why so shy? Right? Why so coy? If you're going to report it all. I think keeping stats, this is just me, and people that I know do it, that I think are cool. I love them. But I think keeping stats at practice is foolhardy. Right? I don't need to know that the dude went 8 for 12 in the 9-on-7, or in the 7-on-7, or in the team competition. I don't need he went da-da-da. No. Did he play well or did he not? Did he struggle or did he not? Because the stats can be for a lot of different reasons. The why is really what I am more concerned with knowing. So they were talking about Chauncey Golston having a sack. And my question immediately went, well, where did the sack come from? Was he playing outside or was he playing inside? Because I don't know what they're going to do with all of these defensive lineman bodies. Remember, Chauncey Golston was not an edge rusher with Dallas. Chauncey Golston was a D-end 3 technique, right? That's the same as Roy Robertson Harris. That's the same as Jeremiah Ledbetter. They were D-ends 3 techniques. They played both positions. So it then makes me wonder where all 3 of them can't be like interior defensive linemen unless you're saying we're getting rid of Nunez Roches, DJ Davidson, and Jordan Riley. You would have to be saying that all 3 of those guys are going, right? Because Darius Alexander's not going anywhere, and he's an interior defensive lineman, right? So if all 3 of those guys are making this team, if all 3 of those free agents are making this team, and they're making this team because they were brought in to help stop the run, and the 3 guys who they were brought in for, because those were the 3 guys that were on the roster last year, or excuse me, the 4 guys that were on the roster last year, Nunez Roches, DJ Davidson, Jordan Riley, and Elijah Chatham, right? That means that those 3 free agents and Darius Alexander would be the 4 that replaces those 4. Because you have to remember that they only kept 5 interior defensive linemen last year. Now, are they going to keep 6 instead of 5? Okay, well then who's the outside linebacker that's getting left on the cutting board? These are the reasons why I need to know where they're playing these dudes at. Like, is Chauncey Golston lining up at edge or on the edge most of the time? Is that where the sack came from? Or was he lined up at 3 technique, which points to, ooh, let's get more athletic people on the interior when it's time to pass rush? Yes, please. I'm all for it. I don't need to see DJ Davidson out there. I don't need to see Price out there. Right? I don't need to see those dudes because those dudes aren't really getting to the quarterback at a clip that I would like to see my defensive lineman getting to the quarterback. And I don't know why I said Price. I meant Jordan Riley. I don't even know if I want to see Elijah Chapman out there. Like, I want to see Chapman jump in as a speedy, change of pace nose guard. Right? Like, I want to see this defense use the big dudes in positions to better help on the run defense and on the passing defense. So that's the stuff I'm really looking for. Like, someone said, hey, during they were doing a competition period and Russell Wilson had a touchdown and Jaxson Dart had 2 touchdowns. That's great, but like, how? What? In what way? How did tell me about the touchdowns if you want me to get excited about the touchdowns. Because just saying he had 2 touchdowns, what if one of them was a busted play? When I was at the rookie minicamp, right, there was that big long pass that everybody recorded from Jaxson Dart where he threw it down the field for a touchdown. You notice that the wide receiver was wide open? You want to know why? It's because the cornerback did something wrong. And that dude was wide open. He did something that was so wrong that there was no reason why he should have done that. Not, hey, he made a little miscalculation. No. He just completely and totally screwed up. Most of the times, that's not going to happen. Like 99% of the time, that's not going to happen in a real football game. These dudes are pros. They've been around. They don't really make those types of mistakes. And if they did, they've got help over the top. And so that aggression was because of the help on the top. So, that really didn't tell me anything about him throwing that touchdown. The only thing it told me is that, hey, I know he can throw it that far. He was able to throw it and catch the guy in stride. But what does that really mean, catching him in stride, if he had been covered by somebody? Because now in stride could be in stride for the defensive back as well. I'm not being, and I don't want you guys to think this is negative, because it's not. I'm saying that I want to understand more about what's happening to be able to give a better review of what's going on, and why I say, hey, not so fast, right? That's why. Like, if there's a situation where somebody is having a good offseason, that's great. I wanna celebrate that. I want that to be talked about. But I want it to be celebrated, and I want it to be talked about because it's something that can be sustainable and transition over into training camp and then the regular season, right? Like, that's where I really want this to be, like, really good. Like, I really want people to go, oh snap, right? Like, this is going to be really good. These dudes are they're putting it together one by one. Hey, Paulson Adebo made a play on the ball, got an interception. Great. You want to know why? Because people keep trying to tell me, oh, well, Paulson Adebo had the most penalties in the league. Yeah. When you're aggressive, you're going to get called for penalties. Who cares? Who cares? If you're aggressive, you're going to get called for penalties, right? If you're physical, you're going to be called for penalties. If you're aggressive, you're going to get beat sometimes. That's okay. Are you making more plays? Then you're not. Because if you're making more plays, then who cares about the penalty? Which one is more impactful, the interception or the pass interference? It's always the interception, right? It's always the interception. Yeah, the pass interference can be damaging, but you're going to get another opportunity to play. The interception, game over. Like, not game over, but you know what I'm saying. The play is over. Like, you no longer have the ball if I intercept it. If you're beating me and I get a pass interference, then that pass interference allows me to live to fight another day. Even if that live to fight another day is on the 1 yard line, I still live to fight another day. And that's all you can hope for. That's all you can ask for when you're out there. And so seeing Paulson Adebo get interceptions, that's great. Seeing Javon Holland and people saying, oh, Javon Holland is out there making plays. He looks good. I'm impressed by him. That's great. You want to see the acquisitions looking good early, because that says a lot. But it don't mean a thing until they put those pads on. That's what I need to see first. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are still trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. I know right now the YouTube channel looks crazy because we've got all of these different little videos popping out. But don't forget to lock in when this podcast hits. Now, I think part of it's because the Knicks is still alive. Part of it is because before this OTA, there wasn't much to talk about. But also, I know that y'all are seeing all these little videos and you're like, it's too much. It's overkill. Like, you're getting your brain frazzled, right? I get it. Find this, right? Get to a giant issue. Start patronizing the giant issue again. I was very disappointed in the numbers from the last pod, and I was cooking. I was saying some good things. So you might want to go back and check out that previous podcast. But I think it's just because There's so much going on, and we're throwing a lot of little itty bitty videos at you. We'll hopefully get better at that and clean it up a little bit as we go along. We are quickly approaching season 2 of A Giant Issue. We will start the new season of A Giant Issue when training camp starts. So watch out for that. Be on the lookout for that and all that jazz. But we're still kicking on and kicking through. And I appreciate everybody that patronizes. We're still trying to get to 5,000. You know what? It doesn't really even matter. If you see a little video, a little 2-minute video, man, hit the like on it, hit the subscribe. It all helps the algorithm to say, hey, we really need to invest in New York Giants on their size YouTube channel and get it in the face of more people so we can get to 5,000. We've got time, but that time is going to move fast. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have today. Again, thank you for all you do. Thank you for joining us. JT Savoy, appreciate the question out there. If you have questions that you want to know, you want me to address on the pod, hit me up at Gene Clemons. Anywhere that you do social media, hit me up in the comments over there. I usually like to chat, but if I see something that someone's saying and I'm like, yo, that's something worth bringing to the pod, I'll definitely bring it to the pod. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.